Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the wokest magic show on the internet. This is Casually Spike. I am your host, Dakota Marker, and with me are my friends Devin Harrison.
Hi, man.
Bill Gantz.
I'm alive.
And Jaron Denham.
You might be woke, but I'm definitely not.
Well then, let's get you woke. So Jaron, what are we doing here today on Casually Spike?
Well, basically what it is we're focusing on trying to help our listeners and ourselves become better players and more active and more responsible in the MTG community, as well as other gaming such as Hearthstone or even League of Legends. We just want to try to make people less salty out there and know what they're talking about.
Shutting down the salt factory.
With a potato.
With a potato. And we are coming to you live from Clutch Gaming, located on Clown Island, which is in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Well, I mean, we are too far from Wheeling Island, so...
They got some clowns over there. It kind of counts.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. All right, so do you want to go into the first thing, Dakota?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, very recently we had a Star City Games Open located in Indianapolis. And, obviously, the internet's hype over our breakout star, Smuggler's Copter.
The Looter Scooter.
That's exactly right, my friend. The Looter Scooter is a 2-mana 3/3 artifact vehicle. It has flying and crew too. And whenever Smuggler's Copter attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Now, it was seeing a lot of play, especially on the high end. What were the numbers on that, anyway?
Bill, do you have that pulled up?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, I know
did.
that it was 32 in the top 8, which was Skull Clamp numbers. All right.
And Jace numbers.
Yeah, Jay's numbers was Stoneforge numbers.
And there was 88 in top 32?
88 in top 32 and 145 in the top 64.
So, if you do the math, that's assuming we divide all the Copters evenly among all the decks, in top 64, that's 2 Copters in every deck in top 64.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gross part about it is, even though it's week 1, people haven't really figured out the format because, again, it's week 1. We haven't had the Pro Tour yet. But these numbers are really strangely coincidental to what we had with Stoneforge Mystic and Jason Mind Sculptor back in Cobblade days.
I mean, to be fair, though, Jason Stoneforge weren't really good until we started getting equipment that was ridiculous in Scars of Mirrodin.
Yeah, like Batter Skull and Sword of Feast of Famine.
And the thing with the early meta is that aggro tends to be very popular in early meta. It was Red White Humans that won the Indy, actually. So,
with CVM at the helm.
And Smuggler's Copter is a very aggro-centric card that happens to just fit in a lot of strategies. I mean, 2 mana for a 3/3 flyer is a good rate, and then you also get to loot not only when you attack, but when you block. Now, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
And the big question on everyone's minds is Smuggler's Copter too good? Is this the return of Affinity and Stoneforge and whatever? And in short, no.
You think no?
I think no.
Okay, Devin, what do you think?
Maybe?
You think it might be?
Maybe.
Okay, Bill?
No.
No.
I agree with Dakota.
I really don't think that it is either. Because, like I said, it's week 1. We haven't figured out anything about the format. I just 4-0'd tonight at F&M with White Black Control with no Smuggler's Copters. And I played against a ton of Smuggler's Copters through at least 2 rounds. The only reason that I didn't see Smuggler's Copters in the other 2 was because I don't think they owned them.
Yeah.
And, I had... God, I can't remember what it's called. The 1-mana white spell that destroys an artifact that costs 4 or less, I believe it is.
Fragmentize.
Yeah, Fragmentize. I had that as a 1-of in my sideboard, just so the off chance I saw a Smuggler's Copter. And I didn't have to use it at all. I ended up killing him with the Essence Drain thing.
Well, because, there's a lot of answers to Smuggler's Copter available in Standard right now. If we look at everything that's about the same cost as Copter, probably my favorite card that deals with it is Natural State from Oath of the Gatewatch.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is green for an instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 3 or less. I use it a lot in Modern, and I think it's actually really solid in standard for dealing with Copter if you're in green, which a lot of people are because, like, all the Bant Cocoa shells that we had prior to Kaladesh coming out, I've seen a lot of players trying to rotate those into, like, Bant aggro or, like, Bant mid, like, some kind of alternate Bant controller mid-range type build. And then, of course, we have Fragmentize, like we talked about earlier. And the cool thing with Fragmentize is that Smuggler's Copter and Fragmentize are both in Kaladesh, which means they will always exist in tandem with one another.
Absolutely.
So I don't think Smuggler's Copter is going to be good, I think, but it's not going to be, like, oppressive to the point of needing banned in standard or anything goofy like that.
I also feel that standard, being that it rotates every 6 months now, makes it to where we won't actually have a ban list in standard anymore. Because the whole reason that we had Jason Stoneforge get banned recently was because they were in standard for a total of 2 years. And they started taking over the format by en masse when we had Batterskull enter the format. So that gave us 6 months left where nothing but Cobblade and Blue-White Control were taking over the entire format. And we lost Bloodbraid Elf in the rotation before we got into Scars Mirrodin, which was the only card that kept that deck in check, really.
I mean, it's still possible that a card could get banned in the future in standard, just because even though they don't exist in 2 years, I think it's like a year and a half now, if I remember correctly, because like assuming that the offender is in the first block of whatever set, or the first set of whatever block, you go that set, the next set, and then 4 more sets after that, and it's 4 sets a year, so it's about a year and a half.
Yeah, it's 18 months, yeah.
So, at least in theory, there shouldn't be, or at least in theory, there may or may not be standard bannable cards again. Wizards has been very careful to try and avoid these things because, like, even the guys higher up, like in Hasbro, yelled at them over Affinity, and I'm sure they weren't all daisies and roses when Jace took over the format either.
Well, the other thing about Jace was that he was obviously the first Planeswalker that had 4 abilities.
That was a big deal.
He actually only had 3 through all of playtesting, and they decided that he needed an effect, I believe, that was to protect himself, which was the Unsummon.
Oh, Lord.
So they didn't even test one of the abilities on it, and I believe it was the Unsummon. As silly as that sounds, that was the one they didn't test.
Seems odd that they would have tested, because if you didn't have the Unsummon on it, then you have a +1, a 0, and then an ult, which seemed kind of weird for a Planeswalker at that time, because this was still when they were, like, learning a little bit how Planeswalkers worked. Like, Elspeth was very good, and they wanted to make more like Elspeth, where they were, like, super good, but not, like, overly broken or whatever. Yeah, especially since Bloodbraid Elf was in that format. But, we had that going on, and then they decided to print Jace, and without the Unsummon, I think they might have thought that him not having a neg ability might have been, like, maybe too good, because you could just brainstorm every turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was good enough. Which was good enough on its own, given.
And I think that since we're talking so much about Jason Stoneforge, I feel that we actually need to go back in time a little further and talk about Affinity as well, because the first time that we had bannings in like original Mirrodin block was at the tail end of Darksteel, and that was when Affinity was absolutely oppressing the format. And even though we had Oxidize, Shatter, Smell, all these different spells to deal with the artifacts, Affinity was still a force, and they had to ban the artifact lands, Disciple the Vault, and there was another thing that they banned.
Skull Clamp?
Skull Clamp came after.
Oh.
Actually, it might have been there, too.
I mean, it was either Skull Clamp or Arcbound Ravager.
Arcbound Ravager never got banned, I don't think. But either way, like... Yeah, all those things got banned.
That's a fair swath of cards to cut, and I mean, like, the big thing with Affinity was just that it, like, you could slam it down and, like, go from, like, you could get a 4-mana creature out for free on, like, turn 2.
It was actually turn 1 most of the time. Because, like, at the time, they would go, like, Sea of the Synod, Welding Jar, into Arcbound Worker, into, like, another 0-drop, like an Ornithopter, and then they would go Frogmite. And then probably Mirror Enforcer. It was just so dumb because I think I told you this before, but that was when I started actually playing over at Old Hobbies Inc. before they stopped doing tournaments. Because that was when I actually decided to start playing tournaments was, hey, I'm going to go over here, and I played mono red during that time, and it was a bad choice.
Yeah, I mean, they were so scared of Affinity even after the bannings. That's why in Kamigawa we got stuff like Kataki.
Yeah. There was also a precon in Darksteel that had 2 skull clamps in it. And this is actually my favorite story to tell about that block. In Mirrodin, there was an equipment called Scythe of the Wretched that gives a creature +2/+2, and then if it dies, you bring it back from the graveyard. Well, if a creature dies, you bring it back from the graveyard equipped with a scythe. And they had to actually make that card better so it did an infinite combo with Triskelion. Because what it was during development was it was +2/+1. So Trike would shoot itself twice, and then he would shoot the opponent once. And then the Trike would die, and the scythe would go back on it, and they would repeat the process. And they had to actually make it to where it was +2/+2, so that combo didn't exist in Limited. And at the tail end of Darksteel, when they actually banned Skullclamp, you could almost say, I want to say it was an emergency ban, and which was the last time they actually did it. It was supposed to be in a precon in 5th Dawn as well. And it was only as a one-of. I still remember that article that Aaron Forsythe did, and it was like his first one as the lead. It was it was definitely a good thing to read. And then, do we want to go talk about the pretties? The pretties.
The pretties.
The pretties.
My precious.
Absolutely. WotC had announced about, what would you say, 3 weeks ago?
Not even that. It was
Not
like,
even that?
wasn't it like two weeks ago?
It might have been 2 weeks ago. I really
It's
don't
been
know.
very relatively recently.
It was.
I should check and see when that video was posted.
Yeah, give it a go. But WotC had announced that for doing the leagues, that you will get treasure chests instead of X amount of packs for going at an optimal records. So 3-2 or better gets these treasure chests that give you 3 randomly selected cards out of a curated list, a common uncommon list out of standard or Kaladesh, and also modern rares or mythics, which you can also pull the Kaladesh masterpieces in. You can also pull just crazy things like Force of Will or Black Lotus. Like, all these cards off the curated list are just crazy things that you can pull. The only thing that isn't on the list that apparently people are actually kind of upset about, and this is going out to Evan Irwin, Gorilla Shaman is not on the list, and on Magic Online, it is currently a $12 common.
Decks out for Harambe, I guess.
Absolutely. But did you find the list yet?
No, I'm still
Okay.
I'm still looking.
Okay, but you can pull power out of the curated list. They actually pulled a Force of Will in the preview video that they did, where somebody opened up 10 treasure chests. He opened up 2, and they were both garbage. And then he opened up all of them at once, well, the other 8, and he opened up a Force of Will. That was like the big thing out of it. You know what? I'd be fine with the Force of Will.
Seems good.
That seems great.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the statistics. I think somebody already did it on Reddit.
Yeah. It was. I think there was only like one piece of power that can actually be gotten out of the treasure chest, because the curated list only gave so many copies of the card to the general public. So if there's like a billion treasure chests that's given out, it only gives 1 Black Lotus, I believe, is what I read. So 1 in a billion, it's still 1 in a billion.
Oh, yeah.
As the goofy meme says, still a chance.
But what are the chances of the lottery? Isn't it less than that?
The lottery is actually way less than that, yeah. The lottery is, if you do like the Powerball, it's just less than, actually it's a little more. Because I think the Powerball is up to 53 white balls now, I believe. Maybe even 55. And then they have 32 red balls, I believe it is. So you're looking at somewhere around trillions of numbers. All right, so it is currently, for the Powerball, the grand prize is 1 in 292,201,338. So you officially, depending on how many treasure chests are actually given out in this promotion, which is not really a promotion, it's a thing that's going to happen for the foreseeable future, you have a better chance of hitting the Powerball, which seems fair. But the thing that people are getting up in arms about the treasure chest is that the EV from the chest is actually less the higher up you do, well, the better you do. So you used to get, I forget how many packs it was for 5-0ing, but they cut it by like 4 and gave you 8 treasure chests. And your expected value is down 4 tickets, which is basically $4. And here's the best part. If you finish 3-2 or better, your EV actually went up by half a ticket.
All right, I've got the list of curated cards here.
Absolutely. Reaganomics.
And I mean, we've got a lot of, like, obviously we have a lot of, like, modern legacy playable stuff. Like, just in the top, I'm seeing Abrupt Decay, Academy Rector, Academy Ruins, Ad Nauseum. And then, like, you have weirder cards that are, like, we've seen some of in different things, like Angelic Destiny and Animar Soul of Elements.
Yeah.
So, like, cards that aren't competitive, but cards that are, like, casual all-stars, like, for your commander and whatnot. And then there's also a ratio list. The way they have it set up on the mothership is that instead of giving you, like, a percentage possibility, which is probably, like, every card is less than 1%, they have a ratio list. So, like, for example, in the first slot in a treasure chest, they give percentages, and you have a 19% chance of getting a curated card, a 51% chance of getting a modern rare or mythic, or 30% chance of getting play points.
I would take the play points most likely.
And then in the second slot, you have a 5% chance of getting a curated card, a 16% chance of getting a modern rare or mythic, no chance of play points in the second slot, and then standard commons and uncommons are 79%.
Yep.
And then in the third slot, you've got 1% on either a curated card or a modern rare or mythic, 0% of play points, and then the other 98% is the common or uncommon.
The other thing that the public was actually really up in arms about was that originally the treasure chests were not tradable. Yeah. They have recently changed that to where they are now tradable. So now they actually do have a dollar value on Magic Online, so that's kind of fantastic.
Yeah, and then they also have a frequency ratio table for, like, when you get play points, how many you'll get.
Yeah.
And they offer them in amounts of 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 80, 120, or 1,000.
Oh, man.
Where it goes that 10, 15, 20 are all frequency ratio 500.
Yeah.
30 is 300, as is 40. 80 and 120 are 50 on that ratio chart, and then 1,000 is at 1.
Yeah.
So...
I remember when Shadows over Innistrad was getting ready to come out, and I actually grinded the 2-man modern queues playing Blue-Green Infect, and I managed to get enough play points that I basically had $100 to play pre-releases with. And I won so many matches in a row.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of ignorant about how Magic Online works. How many play points does it take to enter, like, an average draft?
To get in a draft, I believe it's 140. So it's basically $14. You can also use 20 play points, which is basically $2, as well as 3 packs. Then, if you choose to pay with tickets, it's 14 tickets. So basically what it comes down to is 10 play points equals a ticket. So it's $1.
Oh, well, one thing we forgot to mention about the treasure chest, because when Kaladesh Inventions were announced, it was also announced that Inventions would not be available in Kaladesh packs on Magic Online.
Yep.
And they would reveal how they would do it later. Well, it turns out that the treasure chests are their delivery of choice. Now, the curated cards list has ratios for all the cards, and they usually, as far as I can tell here, they average somewhere between 6 to 25. But then you've got the Masterpiece list, which is a separate list, and all the values are either 20 or 6.
Yeah.
Or the Kaladesh Inventions are all rated at 20, so stuff like Aether Vial and Champion's Helm. And then all the Zendikar Expeditions are listed at 6, so stuff like Blood Crypt and Breeding Pool.
At least we have a chance on the Expeditions, I guess. That's pretty sweet.
I'd have rather had them in packs, in my opinion.
Well, we did have the Expeditions in the Battle for Zendikar packs, as well as Oath of the Gatewatch.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, to have a more real draft experience, you would want the Masterpieces in the Kaladesh packs. But this leads me to wonder if they're going to leave the Masterpieces in the packs for the Pro Tour.
I mean, I don't think they would, just because, like, it seems like the reason they introduced the Vancouver rule basically, if you have to take a mulligan and go down to 6 or less cards, you're allowed to, when you decide to keep your hand, you scry one. When they implemented the Vancouver rule, a lot of people were theorizing that because the last Pro Tour, they had a lot of people like mulliganing over and over again because they just couldn't get good hands.
Yeah.
And it led to like a less positive viewing experience. So I'm thinking they wouldn't put them in just because if somebody opens an invention, that boosts the power of their deck by at least 20%. If it's not a Gear Hulk, let me preface that.
Right. I honestly I think that if they had the inventions left in the pack, they would have to go from their feature match draft table because as soon as can't use LSV as the example. Let's say Martin Yuza is the one that's the feature drafter, and he opens that pack and he sees a soul ring on top. That he is going to take that soul ring because
Who wouldn't?
exactly. Bill, you would take a soul ring. Dakota, you would take a soul ring.
Without a doubt.
I mean, your wife in the back would take a soul ring. But I mean, she already got one. But that's beside the point.
That is the windmilliest of windmill slams.
Oh, absolutely. And when I opened that soul ring at the pre-release, there was no better feeling I had in that deck than going land, soul ring, sky skiff, go. Oh my god, that is so freaking good. How do you lose that game? And I almost did, because I didn't draw anything else after that, but I managed to get there with my Sky Skiff. So it doesn't matter. Sky Skiff still got there. But anyway, so Martin used a Windmill Slam, Soul Ring, pack one, pick one. That means his power level of all of his picks gets astronomically higher than every opponent he's going to face in those 3 rounds of that draft. So Martin Yuza might be on the feature match for that first round, but after that, no. Because he's going to win. He's going to 3-0 that pod. And then we have to find somebody else.
And that's what I'm saying. If they just, if they put an invention in Pro Tour packs and, somebody gets it, it's going to drive their power so much farther. Because, I think it's fair to say that most of the pros in a top 8 at the Pro Tour are about the same skill level most of the time. So, it's about, at that point, it's... Well, it depends, I guess, one way or the other.
I heard many pros and people that have been there multiple times saying that the skill level at a Grand Prix is actually higher than a Pro Tour.
That's an interesting observation.
It really is, but you have to look at it as, let's use myself as an example. I have tried to qualify for so many Pro Tours. I have been so close to it. I have been one turn away from being in Madrid. I have been... my turn away from going to Atlanta. I have been to many Pro Tour qualifiers, as a few RPTQs, so many PPTQs, and as many Grand Prix as I could think of. And I have finished just shy of that Pro Tour invite so many times for the last 11 years. And, and I just have it taken away from me. And it just makes me sad, but obviously I get over it. But you look at how, the skill level at a Grand Prix, and that you have done really well when you're sitting at 4-0, and you had a 2-round bye. Okay, you had a 2-round bye. That's fine because you won a Grand Prix trial. So that means that you had to play at least 8 rounds, including 5 rounds including a top 8, normally. And that means you played 8 rounds to win 2 rounds later. And then you played against, Red Green Tron while you're on Infect. So you trucked that guy. And then you played against Splinter Twin before it was banned. And you trucked that guy, too. And then you go 0-3 for the rest of day 1. That happened to me at GP Pit, man. It was bad.
So I think the lesson we should all take away from this is that Jaron Denham is the Charlie Brown of Magic.
Good grief. But... if you look at a Pro Tour, you have these people that... I should have put my phone on silent. But anyway, you have these people that obviously do deserve to be there. Hands down. I think they should be there. They earned it. Good for them, man. But especially with the old PTQ system. Are you familiar with how it was? Not the regional Pro Tour qualifiers, but the ones they did at the shop level.
Well, I mean, I know that aren't PPTQs a relatively new thing, or is it? Or no, it's the RPTQs that are the new thing.
Well, the PPTQs and the RPTQs were introduced at the same time.
Okay.
Which was about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I missed every single shop level PTQ because I was working as a manager at GameStop. So, one of my friends, he actually qualified for 2 Pro Tours using that system.
Wow.
And no shade at him. No 15 degrees cooler in the shade at all. Those were 14 to 15 people each. So they played 4 rounds of Swiss, and then I cut the top 8, and he won the top 8 in both of those.
Is it Pro Tour this weekend?
Pro Tour is next weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw on Twitter BBD and all those posting about being in Hawaii already.
Yeah, they go there a week early so they can get their house ready,
Okay.
and then they test the entire week. But you look at the PPTQ system, and I actually feel that this is awesome, even though I have missed at the RPTQ by 1 turn, because to be the man, what do you got to do?
You got to beat the man.
Exactly. So every single person that you play at an RPTQ is the end boss of that store. So when I won up at Mystic Mountain for my first PPTQ I ever played in, it was sealed. I opened up my pool, and I looked at my buddy who was sitting next to me, and I said, "You know what the best part about my sealed pool is?" He says, "What's that?" I said, "I get to go watch the Pirates at 4:30." And I ended up 3-0-2ing. That's the Swiss with the most aggro green-white deck I could play. Because I knew in order to beat that pool, to make that pool good, I had to be the fastest deck in the room. And then I ended up drafting the balls craziest red-white deck I've ever seen.
What set was this?
This was Magic Origins.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to get ready, I ended up testing with Blue-Black Fairies for the RPTQ for months. And I was like, all right, we got it, but I don't feel very confident in Blue-Black Fairies that it's going to be able to beat Jaron or anything like that. And I was given Blue-Green Infect the Wednesday before the RPTQ. So I was like, all right, we're audibling the Blue-Green Infect. I played against Red-Green Tron round 1, and I trucked them.
Well, yeah, I mean, Infect takes a day off when they go up against Tron.
Oh, yeah. This was actually the first event I played with Infect. Wow. And I almost qualified for Atlanta off of it. It made me very, very upset on my way home. I've never actually been hangry before, but I definitely was that day.
Well, I'd get hangry too if I went up against Ric Flair every round.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Speaking of hangry, I think that's a good seg into our next topic of discussion.
I do too. This is going to be fantastic.
Today, one of the big things we want to talk about is getting tilted as a Magic player.
Bill, would you like to read the definition I threw in the show notes?
What is tilt and how to manage it? Tilt is a gambling term, most common in poker, describing an angry or reeling state of mind, usually caused by big or unlucky loss.
And this also goes for the opposite as well, for when you actually manage to get that big win and you're really excited and you think nothing can touch you, and then you go all in and you just get trucked.
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, actually, the origin of the term tilt actually comes from pinball machines.
Yes, sir.
Where if the ball wasn't going the right way, players would try and actually physically tilt the pinball table to guide the ball. But the thing is, most pinball machines have an internal sensor on them that lets them know when they're not level. And if they go off, then usually what will happen is the display will flash tilt and it'll lock the flippers, which guarantees the loss of the ball.
Okay, so I have a question then. Is the pinball table really flat or on even surface if it's actually slanted down like it's supposed to be?
Well, I think the idea is that whatever it uses to level is probably in the backboard section.
It's a gyro sensor basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But to go into tilt, what we're looking at is how salty are you, how salty is your opponent, and how you can combat, well, not really combat, but how to treat the saltiness in both players or the one player in general.
And I mean, it also, like, you can also assess the situation you're in general, because sometimes it's the situation that puts you on tilt.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, probably what single-handedly generates the most tilt in the game of Magic.
Well played. Oh wait, no, I was thinking Hearthstone.
is a good old-fashioned bad beat.
Absolutely. Like, have you ever been just sitting there and you're like, all right, I got stabilized, I'm good, I'm going to wreck this game, and then your opponent top decks 5 draws in a row and just takes you right out of it and takes all that wind out of your sails? Yeah, that happened to me last week.
Or you have like you build like a hyper aggro deck and you like draw a great opener with like a 1, 2, and 3 drop and lands and whatever. And then the rest of the game, you just draw lands. And they draw gas, and they punch the crap out of you.
So, for those of us who don't know what bad beat is, explain it.
You don't know what a bad beat is?
I don't know what it is, but other people know.
All right, so a bad beat is when you're winning the entire time, and then out of nowhere, it's just taken away from you, and you lose that game like in the most miserable way possible. Like in poker, there was a guy who I forget exactly what his name is, but they called him the River, and it was because he had a 2-outer every single time that it went to the river, and his opponents would be all in every time that they went in against him, and he would flip that one of the 2 cards to win the hand and take them out of the WSOP. And we're talking like this happened 4 times at the final table that year. That dude was absolutely amazing at his craft and so lucky, and he had to be sending signals to that dealer.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're dealing with that much money.
Oh, absolutely.
But basically, like, if I had to describe a bad beat story using, like, a real situation, it would be like being a child on Christmas, and, like, it's the night before, and, like, you leave your cookies and your milk out, and you're super excited, because you were a good boy this year, and, like, you're gonna get the sweet race car, and then, like, you're fighting to get to sleep, but you manage to get to sleep around, like, midnight or whatever, and then you wake up Christmas morning, and you get to see the presents, and then Santa breaks in through the window, takes all your presents, and jumps out the door.
But what we don't know is that was actually the Grinch.
Well, I mean, we have a Grinch in Kaladesh. Maybe the Wily Bandar that stole Christmas?
Yeah. The cat monkey.
Well, I mean, how could we stop him? He could get indestructible until end of turn.
Still ain't no unblockable. Keyword rest in peace. Alright, so a lot of the way to treat tilt, I believe, has to come from customer service, really. Because if your opponent's on tilt, like, you want to keep them on tilt, but you also want to get them off tilt, too. That way, you don't have a horrible experience. Like, you want to keep them on tilt for, like, some sort of competitive REL event, like a Grand Prix trial or, like, a PPTQ or some sort. That way you have an advantage in that game. But if you're like a pre-release or F&M, you need to make sure that they have a wonderful experience. That way they'll come back.
Yeah.
And like the one thing that I learned when I was working at GameStop or Discover or anything like that was that if a customer comes into your store and they're like really like they're hulking out on you, like, they're like going angry, they're coming in, they're throwing crap on your desk and telling you that they want their money back or some crap, and they bought it new, so all you can get them is an exact copy or whatever it was, and you can't give them money back because it's new. Like, sorry, you opened it, blah, blah, blah. But the way you do that is, you don't say, I'm sorry. You go, oh, well, I completely understand your frustrations, and I'd be angry about Aliens, Colonial Marines not being exactly what was sold to me either. But I'm sorry, but we have to trade it in.
I mean, it's basically like if you're dealing with a tilted opponent, it's like if you're trying to calm them down, it's basically about putting yourself on their level.
Absolutely.
But like, also letting them know that this is the truth of the matter. Like,
Yes.
it's not like it's incontrovertible.
When I play in like the Grand Prix and PPTQs and whatnot, if my opponent's on tilt, I let them stay on tilt and I try to keep them on tilt until after the match.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to talk them down. Like you want to keep them high up and angry. That way they make the bad plays and stuff like that. But you have to remember at the end of the game, even at the end of the game, that person sitting across from you is a person. And
Wait,
sure,
Magic players are people?
I know, it's surprising, right? It's amazing that Magic players are people. But you have to bring them from up here, like to where their anger level is like taller than they are, and their frustration level is just so high above them that they can't possibly bring themselves down. Now, for me to get cured off a tilt, I have to have Swedish Fish. I have to have Swedish Fish because I'm really angry if I get tilted, and there's nothing that brings me down faster than Swedish Fish. So everybody has to have their happy food. I suggest having your happy food with you.
So how do you help yourself manage tilt while in the game?
I eat Swedish Fish.
During the game?
Yes.
In a Grand Prix?
Yes.
With the PPTQ?
Yes.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yes.
I mean, I don't see why it would be illegal. Cause, like, it's
You're
not
able-
like
No, I have food at the table.
You're able to drink, and you're allowed to pick up your soda off the floor or your water. You're able to unscrew the lid, and then you're able to take a drink, screw it back on, and then set it back down on the floor. I have eaten a Subway sandwich at a match in a Grand Prix. So, I mean, you're able to eat at the table. As long as you don't damage product, who cares? Unless it's your own.
Something I didn't know.
Whatever.
yeah, because I mean, like, it would make sense because like you don't want people getting dehydrated because these Grand Prix, you got like 1,000 people crammed in a space. There's a lot of residual heat hanging around. People are going to get dehydrated.
And the Star City, the one for Atlanta that's coming up, Grand Prix Atlanta, that's this weekend. Yeah,
Yes.
that's tomorrow. They actually capped their event at 4,000, and I know that they haven't capped, but they also aren't offering the playmat to participants anymore. You had to actually pre-reg by September 3rd, and that was the only way that you got the playmat was if you pre-regged at that time. Now, the only way to get it now, speaking on Friday, is to play in their Infinite Challenge, which is $100, and you have to play you can play 3 days of events. So it's not actually that bad, but they're scheduled events.
Yeah, so you have to like micromanage and make sure you like hit all your events to try and hit max value.
Exactly. But if you remember right from GP Charlotte, the one that you went to, Devin, they had the problem with Walter.
Yeah,
which
Event Reporter.
which basically, as everybody
Speaking of tilt,
everybody on MTG Cast said, Walter pooped the bed, and they ended up allowing people to drop from the event and get a refund, or to get the Infinite Challenge badge, which was the refund. And if they did that, then they went and played in a sealed, which they added specially just for the people that dropped, basically. And if you dropped, you got 6 packs. Who cares? I'm dropping from the event. I got 6 packs. I'm happy now. That's exactly what it came down to.
yeah, and I mean, like, it was a smart move on their part because, like, there was nothing they could do to fix Windows Event Reporter, like...
Wizards Event Reporter. Sorry.
Or Wizards Event Reporter. Blah. What did I say?
Windows. I have to tell you that...
This is how...
oh, crap. Chris Cox may have indeed worked on Windows at one point, but now he is working with WotC. So he is the president.
That's...
It is fixed, actually. They're working on it a little harder, trying to make it more stable, but it is definitely stable enough to run a 4,000-person event if need be.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, like, if they had that happen at, like, a Grand Prix...
Which it did.
Oh my. It would...
Could you imagine if it happened at GP Vegas this past year?
Oh, Lord.
I think there were 10,000 people between the 2 Grand Prix. And then this year,
I think Rich Hagon's head would have been left on a post at the event.
Yeah, it's a triple Grand Prix this year.
Yeah.
Standard, Modern, and Legacy. It's going to be fantastic. I wish I could go.
Yeah, going to Las Vegas would be fun and all.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've been to Vegas. I didn't think it was all that great, but that was because I was working. So,
Hey.
Yeah, man, when that software crashed in Charlotte, I forget when it was. It's like
it was round 3.
It was after round 3.
Oh, it was round 4 then.
Yeah, because I had a 2-0 going into it. I beat my round 3 opponent. So I was undefeated. And then it happened. And I got paired down against an 0-3.
Yeah.
So he's
Random
running a
pairings.
rogue deck that I wasn't prepared for, and he wrecked me.
Sounds about right. That's what happens.
That pretty much put me on tilt. That was before I actually cared about managing tilt.
So you were throwing my deck all around because you took Infect with you.
Kind of.
I wondered why there was a ding on my Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, man, there's a lot of different ways to manage tilt. Like, while you're in a match, like Jaron said, like, snacking on something can be good. Like, because if you're thirsty or you're tired, like, getting some energy back through, like, consuming something can kind of help swing your mood up a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, like, in late rounds or whatever, and you're just, like, starting to not so much care so much due to fatigue.
Yeah,
Alternative, like,
that's fair, Bill.
and I mean, alternatively, like, if it's after a match or whatever and you're tilted because, like, you just got, like, horribly beaten, like, what I'll do is I'll just remove myself from the area and kind of, like, for example, like, if I was here at the shop, I'd probably walk outside and just, like, stand outside for a few minutes, get some fresh air.
Yep.
Because, I mean, like, being in the situation, like, in the place or whatever, can basically kind of, like, preserve those feelings and not let you, like, get them out and let you calm down. So, kind of removing yourself from that situation, I've found has been good for me, personally. Mm-hmm. Like, I've done that a couple of times at draft where I'll get horribly wrecked, go 0-2, and then I'm like, okay, I'm on tilt, I need to get out of here, like, right now. And I mean, and that's the thing too, because like if you're grumpy, you got to think about it like this: like you're grumpy, and inevitably your grumpiness will pass on to others.
Absolutely.
So by removing yourself from the situation, you stop being a vector for tilt, basically, kind of working off the whole infection principle.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing that I actually do differently that I've noticed from other people dealing with my tilt is that I can manage my tilt even in a game. And, like, I could be playing my big 8-mana green spell that I took all this time to ramp into, and I'm going to just wreck your face with it, and it gets countered, and it doesn't bother me. It's just like, oh, well, that sucks. And I go on with my life. And, yeah, it happens. Like, who cares? I lost my 8-mana green spell. I've got 3 more in my deck.
Yeah, I mean, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, Magic is a game.
Yep.
Let's treat it like one.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't actually realize that I could manage my tilt as well as I could until I went to SCG States when I was still working at GameStop. It was actually my birthday, and I was playing Boros Burn, basically, right at the start of Konzatar Kier block. And I was playing for a win and in for top 8, and my opponent just absolutely trucked me because he played me perfect. I had 2 deflecting palms in hand, and I could not get it to deal more than 1 damage. And I was like, okay, I just need him to pump his Foundry Street Denizen into like a 4, because this is the only burn spell I got. And he kept the Foundry Street Denizens at 1, and he just kept on trucking in there for 3. And I couldn't draw removal to get rid of them. And I'm just like, well, that sucks. You know, that was game 2. And I won game 1 pretty soundly. So I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. Started shuffling up for game 2, get trucked like that. And then game 3, I flooded. Like, I flooded so hard. And every single spell I did play just broke his back. And he barely got there against me, even though I just flooded the entire time. And he looks at me, and he says, how can you be so relaxed in playing for top 8 or something? And I'm like, at its core, it's a game.
Yeah.
And variance happens.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
And I mean, another thing that I think helps keep tilt in perspective is whenever you see other players who have clearly no control over their tilt or no chill,
Yeah.
As I hear on the internets, on the social medias,
Interwebs.
Hashtag
On
no
the-
chill.
on the interwebs.
Savage AF.
Like, when you see those people with no chill and then you get tilted, it kind of puts you in perspective and says, let's not be this guy. Like,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly. Like, there are some people that do play at random stores that I go to that they treat every game like it is a winning in to a Pro Tour top 8, and they just, like, if they lose, they get so salty and they leave. And most of the time, they don't actually leave. They just stay there and they make things horrible.
But that's what I was saying
Yeah.
earlier. Like, by being a vector for, like, toxicity,
Yeah.
you are spreading your misery onto other people, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had some experience with that when I first started playing about 5 or 6 years ago. As a new player, at the shop I was playing at, there was a particular player that was much like what was just described. Everything was super competitive, super serious. There was no fun in it for him, and he made it not fun for me as a new player whenever I did well, or even if he did well, he was not a good winner or a loser. And it was just frustrating as a new player to play against him. And if the environment was filled with those players, I probably would not have continued to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, we're not saying to not take Magic seriously. We're not saying to not treat it as a competitive game, because it really, at its heart, is. But there's a difference between casual REL and competitive REL. And your casuals are like your pre-releases and your FNMs. And then your competitive RELs are starting at your Grand Prix trials and your PPTQs. Basically, those are the ones that you're trying to, like, you start at FNM and you work your way up to Grand Prix trial. And then after the Grand Prix trial and Pro Tour PPTQs, then you start like, maybe I could try a Grand Prix or try to qualify for Pro Tour or something. And those are, at its heart, are what's trying to get you ready for the pro levels. Because that's where you learn your deck registrations. That's where you learn, like, truly how the stack works. Because at FNM and pre-release, you use shortcuts. Everybody uses shortcuts.
Yeah, like, we don't pass priority. We don't say hold it stuff. We don't
Hold it!
Freeze.
we don't hold it, or we don't tell our opponents to hold on certain steps. We don't what's it called? We don't call out what's the rule called where you basically have a loop that you're going to do and you announce like all the steps in it and you ask your opponent if like I'm gonna do this loop with steps A, B, C, and D, and then assuming they have no responses, you just skip to the end of all those.
I mean, that infinite loops like that, I make people do it.
Yeah.
Because, especially if I won game one, I'm going to make them do it. Because they can chew out the clock.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I know that's a rule in the rule book that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go off of that, if you want to throw somebody on tilt really badly, tell them that you have a response at the end of their second main phase. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
But, Devin, do you actually watch your tilt? Like, do you try to...
I try to watch it every now and then. I've actually been able to manage it better. For example, back when the last Grand Prix in Pittsburgh.
Oh, man, I remember this.
It was standard. I went 7-2 day one. But there were times where I would get so upset that I would always be on tilt that I would actually stop and think about the situation to see if there's something I could have done to not cause the situation again, or if it's just something I had no control over of, and just pushed off and say it happens. Like, for instance, on day two, I believe it was round 3 or 4, day 2, I played Sam Black. I would have had him down to like 2 or 3 life. I was playing red white humans. He was playing like green black. I would draw Z stuff, and I had a man land, and he only had one way out, and it was World Breaker. top decked it, got rid of my Needle Spires.
Yeah.
That made me pretty upset. But assessing the situation, calm down, breathe a little bit. Can't do anything about it. So you just got to know when to brush it off and not take things so personally.
Yeah, I mean, like, like what he was saying, not taking things personally, it's just life. And I mean, like, you're going to run into situations like, life in general, you run into situations where something really awful happens, and you're just kind of powerless to change it. And it's not that that's a bad thing, and it's not you showing weakness, but having, I guess, the mental clarity to be able to accept the things you can't change is important, and it helps you get over those things and kind of basically move on with your life.
Oh, absolutely. And as somebody that's finally getting their life on track, like I'm 28 years old, finally getting everything going in my way, and it's taken me this long to actually like get everything situated, and I'm finally making things right for myself. And things could just go so wrong, but you know something? They had to happen, so I might as well just run with it.
You have to roll with the punches.
That's right. Like, there's nothing you can do. You just go with it. You do what you can. Sometimes these things cost money. Okay, that's fine. Like,
you have to take a chance on things.
Yep. You just got to take care of things. That's all it is. And going back to your discussion about Sam Black, I remember the message you sent me after he top decked the World Breaker. You sent me blankety blank. Sam Black topped a blankety blank World Breaker against me and killed my Needle Spires. And I said, "That's something. You should be proud."
Yeah. Then I went on and played Ralph Batish. He's not really like a big name pro, but he's up there. He's talked to a few Grand Prix. He wrecked me, and I wasn't upset about it. I was like, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it does happen.
I mean, if I would have won, that would have given me my 10th win and my pro points, but can't think about it.
Now, the thing that you want to think about is if you're ever in a feature match, and this was something that was told to me, was you're not going to go in and lose your first feature match. You're not going to go in and lose a feature match. You're going to go in there against that pro, and you're going to beat that pro. Like, you go in with that mindset, with that confidence, you can do anything. You can really do anything. Even if you go on tilt, that confidence will bring you back down. Like,
because, I mean, even just getting to be on camera and knowing that right now, as you're, like, shuffling up for game one, people are watching you play, like, somebody who is, like, a big name, or at least a somewhat big name, depending on who it is.
I thrive on that.
And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, some people don't like the spotlight, but like at the end of the day, it's a game of Magic with a camera over you. Like,
absolutely, it's still a game.
I used to be so nervous going to Grand Prix. Like I would sit down and I would like look around and see who might be walking my way to sit down. I look over, I see like Shahar walking my way. I'm like, no.
shake.
He sits down like 4 tables away from me. I'm like, thank God. And I look over, I see Reed Duke walking by. I'm like, no. He sits down. Like 2 tables down from me. I'm like, okay, it's cool. And then it's just some like, I won't call him a no name, but he's not a pro.
Yeah.
He's just some average person. Sits down across from me. I'm like, whew. And then when I finally played some pros like Sam Black and all of them, it made me realize that there's nothing to be nervous about.
Right. There really is nothing to be nervous about. Technically, my first match against a pro, and this was. Well, I don't want to. It wasn't really before he became he was on a pro tour, but it was Kyle Bogamus. I played him at a PTQ in Columbus back. I think it was extended. I was playing Blue Black Fairies, and I don't remember what he was playing, but I was playing Fairies with Tarmogoyfs because that was the card you played in your sideboard to beat Fairies in the mirror match. Was you played your Tarmogoyfs, but I played 4 main deck, and I said I'm going to win Fairies every match. And I played Fairies 5 times that day. And I almost top 8'd that. And I lost because I got a game loss because I thought I heard my opponent say go when he said no. And this was back whenever you would draw a card and you would get game loss if you did it out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was unfortunate. But Kyle was and still is one of the nicest guys I ever get to talk to when I go to an event. he and I are friends on Facebook, but that doesn't really mean much because it's Facebook, so who cares? But I do enjoy speaking with him. And at the RPTQ I played at almost a year ago now, he sat in the seat next to me almost the entire day. So I'd sit down and be like, how's your mom? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, the pros are just as occupied with stuff as we are. Because, like, I also went to the Grand Prix. I didn't play in the main event. Like, I don't usually play main events at Grand Prix. I'm more there for the side events. And,
You
like,
really
look
should. It's an experience.
I mean, I'm sure it is an experience, but, like, the side events are cool. And I like meeting the artists and, like, doing all the side stuff and looking at the vendors and whatever. But I remember as we were leaving day 2, we were there on Saturday. We were getting ready to leave, and this was at GP Pit just this past in June. And me and my buddy Mike saw Brad Nelson standing near the bathrooms. And we're like, oh, dude, that's Brad Nelson. And we walk over to him and we're like, hey, Brad, what's up? I was going to try and get him autographs on him, but he's like, oh, man. Like, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to talk to you guys, but, like, the round's getting ready to start, and I really need to use the bathroom. And we're like, oh, okay, whatever. And then we left the event because we were getting ready to leave, and we ended up hitting a board on the highway out in
I remember that. Yeah.
and we got stuck on the side of the road for 2 hours.
Wow.
So that was fun. But yeah.
I actually have a Brad Nelson story. It didn't happen to me, but I was there when it happened.
Okay.
One of my buddies, Justin Long, he actually doesn't play anymore, as we know. But he walked up, he was going to the bathroom, and he saw Brad Nelson walking toward it, and he says, let us go to the restroom. And Brad says, let us pee together, brother. And they walk into the bathroom together.
That is a very cool story. Like,
it really was. And I was standing right there watching it. And he raises his hands and basically guides Justin with his hand in his back.
Going back to controlling tilt, just think of that story and you can't be angry.
You can't be angry.
you should also think about how Brad Nelson pronounces the word dragon.
I call him Durgans.
Durgans.
Yeah.
Durgan.
Durgan. But also in controlling tilt, confidence, like I said earlier, is one thing that you can do. Like, when your body tells you you're hungry as well, that's a big thing. But one thing that we construe as hunger could just be thirst. So you need to make sure that you have water and stay hydrated. And that goes with the fatigue factor as well. Because you can get so frustrated just for being tired.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when you're frustrated and, like, you start, like... I mean, I don't do this, but I know other people that do. Like, sometimes when they're really frustrated, they'll, like, get a little shaky about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's anxiety kicking in, and you sweat up a storm when you're anxious. So, like, you can just dry out, like...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you also have to watch your salt intake as well, because that also makes you dehydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you have, like you said, the body heat earlier, and you have your sweat and anxiety starting, and then you have no water on you because you're like me and forgot to prepare, and you didn't grab your Swedish fish, so now you're stuck paying $8 for Swedish fish and a water.
Yeah, I always take a few things of water with me. And I usually eat like the Gatorade, like protein bars and stuff.
Those things are fantastic.
Those are very good for this kind of thing.
Protein takes longer to digest, so
Yeah.
Yeah, like you get yourself some Cliff Bars or something.
Yeah. Also, if you go to Pittsburgh again for the Grand Prix, which I think there's one coming up, I forget when it is.
It's in February.
Yes. There's a place called Pamela's Diner. It's in the strip section. That place has the best breakfast potatoes I think I've ever had. And, like, this is so cliche, but I remember potatoes being made that are exactly like this that my grandmother used to make. Because they add onions to the potatoes and they fry them. And
like fried potatoes?
Yeah.
Oh,
they
man.
fry. They basically make it to where they're just sliced up potatoes, basically.
Yeah.
But they fry them with onions.
Do they fry them in bacon grease?
They can.
I was going to say, that's exactly how my old man makes his, like, fried potato dish. And, like, that stuff, like, I like mine burned black and crunchy, like...
Do you like to add ketchup to it?
No.
Oh man, that's the best thing ever. You gotta add ketchup to it.
No. It's already bacon flavored.
I mean,
It's
that's-
already good.
Obviously, that is true. But think about this for a second. It's bacon flavored and it has ketchup.
I'm failing to see your point.
It's like when you go to Five
I know
Guys.
this is audio, but I'm literally raising my hands and like what? Okay.
It's like when you go to Five Guys, you get bacon or cheeseburger, and they give you like those amount of fries. You take your cheeseburger apart, you put the fries on it, you get ketchup and all that. Same thing, man.
Or you do what I do and order 2 grilled cheeses and then use those as the buns because you're a renegade and you just don't care.
I saw that on Facebook recently.
And also you want to get diabetes when you're 28.
Diabetes. Hey, I'm hypoglycemic. I'm the other side. I know it's 1 a.m, but I really could go for Five Guys after that.
Hey, if Five Guys was open all night, we wouldn't have gone to Taco Bell, I'll tell you what.
Oh, hell no, man. But the big thing that I know that I do whenever I go to a Grand Prix, I load up on starches. Because proteins and starches stay with you the longest. Now, the thing that you probably want to do, and this, I took this from, I mean, you could pack peanuts and such, and trail mix, which is a great idea.
I would eat, if I was going to pack for something like this, I'd probably pack, just a couple of plain peanut butter sandwiches and some water. Because peanut butter, I've found, maybe this is just me, but, I can eat in the morning. If I'm going to work or whatever, I can just, if I don't have time for breakfast, I can just eat a spoonful of peanut butter and be good. Because, I don't know what it is about peanut butter. Maybe it's some kind of, the chemical composition or whatever. But it kind of, coats the inside of your stomach and, you're not hungry for, a while.
It's because it's heavy. And it's also loaded in protein.
Yeah.
And it also has lipids. Which the lipids, obviously, aren't that great. Because they're fat. But, the protein and the fact that it actually sits on your stomach as a heavy mass, basically, that's what makes it to where you actually are able to go through a day. It's also one of the reasons why somebody that's hypoglycemic or has low blood sugar, if they have peanut butter, that basically goes away. Not the shakiness and stuff because they're hungry. If they get that peanut butter, their body metabolizes it, not quickly, but fast enough that it can actually make a difference and make them stop shaking. So it actually makes it to where they do start feeling better. Myself, whenever I go to an event, I pack 3 bottles of water. And then if I remember to go to the grocery store or something before, I get those Crustable sandwiches from Smuggler's because they're just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that's in a little plastic baggie that you can tear open and they're individually wrapped. And they're fantastic. They save you 2 minutes making a sandwich, but who cares? You didn't make it, so it automatically tastes better.
Yeah, I was at Walmart the other day and I saw they have a new kind now that's a Nutella, a knockoff Nutella sandwich.
Yeah, those
and I'm
things are awesome.
I want to try that.
Yeah, those things are fantastic. But you got to be careful with those because it's cocoa powder and hazelnut, which the cocoa powder has sugar, obviously.
Well, I'm not talking about for an event. I just want to try these separately.
Yeah, I want to try them too, but I'm just saying, for those, you would want to watch. It's just like trail mix that includes M&Ms. You have to make sure that you don't eat too many of the M&Ms because you could crash your system.
Pretty much.
Yeah. The other thing that you could also use is I take Mio with me, the flavor water. Well, the water flavor, I should say. Blah, blah. The orange vanilla tastes like a creamsicle. Oh, my God. So good. Gatorade is also helpful, obviously.
Anything that can replenish your electrolytes.
It's what plants crave.
Well, I mean, I'll save the political commentary for another time. But yeah, Idiocracy was a good movie.
So does anybody else have anything to add about Tilt?
Not really. I think we've covered the subject.
So pretty much.
What was that about silencing your phone?
Oops.
So pretty much, what would your guys' recommendations? Just kind of generalized little points, hit points to calm down and manage your tilt.
For me, it's just to take things in stride. So even though you might have something that just broke your back, you're able to get out of it generally. So you just keep a clear mind. You focus. You go, well, that sucks, but I've got a way out of this. And that's how I get out of it.
Probably my big point is bring control to your situation.
Mhm.
Don't let the situation control you.
Exactly.
Yep.
Make people play your game.
Me personally, I stay calm, and this probably doesn't work for everybody, but I stay calm by always expecting the worst. Like, seriously.
They're always going to top deck the answer.
What exactly?
So you
They're
go by
always-
Murphy's Law the entire time.
Yeah,
I
like,
love it.
Your situation with your 8-mana big stompy green creature.
Countered
okay,
by the 1 mana colorless spell.
Exactly. They're going to counter this. And if they don't, it's a great day. I just
Yep.
got my big stompy on the field. We're good.
I just got my big furry monster on the board. Both
Exactly.
sides.
And speaking from experience, I've probably caused Bill a lot of tilt. We tend to play a lot of 3-0 like end events.
It happens.
It really does. I remember whenever I wasn't working weeknights like I am now, I would go up to Washington, Pennsylvania, and play at the gaming dungeon, and I would play against the same guy round 3-4 every week, and he would get so tilted every time we would play round 3 or 4. Like round 3, we wouldn't draw, and I would just like smack him around, you know, and he'd get so mad, and he would just storm out of the store, and we would go into the finals at 4-0, well the 3-0 and 4-0, and I'd be like, do you want to draw? And he'd say, no, I want to play it out. And I would slap him around again, and he would just go home and angry, you know. And I tried to figure out why he would get so mad, and then I remembered it's just because of my temperament. Because I'm there to party. It doesn't matter to me.
I would recommend managing tilt. If you feel yourself getting upset, just kind of breathe a little bit slowly through your nose, out your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and try to assess the situation. Like, see if there's things you can do better, things that you could have done that you can maybe prevent in future games. Just breathing and calming down.
It's all about learning. This entire game is nothing but a learning curve.
Heck, you could even say that about life. Everything in life is a learning curve.
It really is. It just depends on how long it takes you to learn it. And I know a lot of us in our generation need to learn that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it does take time, but it does get there.
Those millennials and their iPhones and their Snapchats.
There's a meme that I saw where it was the generic baby boomer or something like that.
Oh, Lord.
And it was like, says I'm lucky having a $200 smartphone, bought their house for $10,000 during the 70s.
Alrighty, wow. I think it's about time we wound this down. What you think?
I didn't even know we were recording.
Yeah, right. Jaron just got like the biggest like goon and grin on his face, acting like he didn't know.
I thought this was just practice.
But anyway, so at the end of the day, those are some recommendations for Tilt. What do you guys think? Let us know. We have social media channels and things, right? Tell us about those.
Well, right now, the only one that two of them I know of, is the Casually Spike Twitter, which is @CasuallySpike. And then mine is @Jaron Denham. That's JaronDenham. You can reach me just about any time. I don't really care when you message because more than likely I'll be awake because I'm terrible to myself. Bill, do you have anything?
I've got nothing.
You got nothing? All right.
Devin?
Yes, I do. If you would like to reach out to the store that's sponsoring or supporting this, I should say, it is Clutch Gaming LLC. We have a Twitter, Facebook. I'm actually one of the owners. We plan to do future videos, one on YouTube, like box openings and whatnot. We plan to have future streams on Twitch and like Patreon and all that. Try to make content better for you guys and more insight on future events and whatnot. Another note, if you're listening to this or watching this whichever. I guess we'll be listening to it 'cause no picture.
Heh.
If you're in the Ohio Valley area from around Wheeling, West Virginia, we are having a standard window box on the 21st of this month, October. It's $5 entry, and if you win, you get a box.
And
We are also upping it to 2 boxes if we have 40 people show up.
And at second place, we are also offering an Expedition Steam Vents to our runner-up for the tournament. So come on down, and like we said, we're gonna get. Right now, we only have the Twitter. We're gonna get Facebook set up. Work on getting Patreon and everything else set up. And in the meantime, I guess that's a show, my friends.
I guess so. And
Subscribe.
feel free to subscribe. There's a button down below the video that we don't actually have a video for, but it's still there. It's the little red bar. On top of that, we should probably also give the address, even though they can look it up on Google.
Yeah.
But who does that anymore? Because we have smartphones. It's 32 10th Street in Wheeling, West Virginia. And if you need the zip code, it's 26003. I don't know why you would need that, but it's there. And feel free to give me a follow. Like I said, it's at Jaron Denham. Also, at Casually Spike is the podcast and the Twitter. And you can also feel free to add Cole, even though he's not here, because he teaches and he does a hell of a job of it. I believe. Let me go ahead and look him up real quick.
And
Yeah, go
on
ahead.
that note, we're also planning on having rotating guests. I'm gonna presume that Jaron and Devin will be on most of the episodes, and I'm gonna try and be here for a lot of them. And we're gonna try and. What do you think? Rotate? We'll try and have different people on every time.
Yeah, we'll try to have kind of a revolving door of people to join the podcast every now and then. I know there's at least 7 or 8 that were interested in doing the podcast in the first place.
We could bring them on, see how they do, and then gauge audience reaction to them.
Well,
One thing we should think about doing is getting set up on at least iTunes at the very least, getting podcasts on there, because then what we can do is you guys can submit reviews to us and tell us, hey, I like this, and hey, this sucks.
Yeah, and there's also Stitcher that we can add to.
Like Stitcher, and there's a couple other
Libsyn.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff. But to follow Cole Sims, he is at Cole234. Very generic, very simple to find. He'll answer your tweet just about any time of day that's not the daylight. Because, like I said, he teaches kids, and kids actually seem to like him. So, surprising, I know. But Cole's a really cool dude. He was supposed to do this with me originally. We were going to do Casually Spike episode 1 back in April. I believe it was April 23rd is when I was planning on doing it. And I was really sad because that was the week of the changes that they were going to make with Platinum Pros. And I had it called Casually Spike episode 1, The Platinum Menace. I'm so sad I didn't get to use it.
Well, I know what we can title this first episode. Episode 1, Clown Island.
Oh, man.
Well,
Alrighty, folks.
All right,
got anything else for us?
I think we're good.
cool.
Everybody enjoy your evening or morning, whatever it is, whenever you were listening. I hope that you didn't listen to this whole thing when you were driving to work.
Yeah, we're no Mark Rosewater. We just sound nicer.
We'll post links to this Clutch Gaming page, Facebook, Twitter, links to Jared's Twitter and Cole's and all that. We can post all the links. Yeah. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are out.